Welcome in again, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the R&D Sports Report. I'm joined here again on an evening, rainy day by Rylee. Rylee, how you doing this evening?
Hola, I'm doing great.
All right, so we left off last episode that there's still quite a bit to get to that we didn't cover and that we wanted to get to, so that's kind of where we're going to start on this rainy evening. And that'll hopefully bring our spirits up from the weather that's outside, which also played a factor in Major League Baseball today on opening day. So, all right. So, I guess the biggest thing out of our the NFL topics that we didn't hit last time, the biggest thing I think is that the Giants say that Odell Beckham Jr. is not available, but then you have reports out by Adam Schefter, saying that now the asking price is at least 2 first-round picks. Coming out after saying, well, nobody's untradeable pretty much. And they say, well, we're not looking to trade him. So, first off, what do you make of all this? Do you think the Giants are looking to kind of rebuild, maybe get rid of some of that higher-end talent?
Well, I do, but at the same time, I'm in the middle state of, do we want that reputation of kicking somebody that they love and then just being hated for it? Or, are we going to rebuild and just say screw everybody and, get new people? Me, personally, I don't want Odell Beckham Jr. to leave, but then again, a new scenery for him. I would love to see him on a different team.
Well, I mean, if you talk different teams, right, the Rams were one that were speculated as being a potential suitor for him and to be able to land him, but that was when the asking price was only a first-round pick. So, do you think anybody's actually going to pay the price for the 2 first-round picks? Because that's what they in Adam Schefter's tweet. It says, at least. It doesn't say 2 first-round picks that'll get it done. It says at least. So they could want more when it comes to negotiation time. But do you think he actually gets traded? First off, second off, do you think anybody's willing to pay the price?
Okay. To your first question, again, I'm in the middle as always, but I say...
Pick a side.
I say yes. I think that they're kind of just being selfish right now. That's just my view of it. I don't think they're really, thinking of what the fans want. And they're just, I get it, focus on your team, but, you got fans behind you. Don't screw them over. To your second question, which was what again?
Do you think anybody will pay that price for him?
Depends on who you are. If you, I don't know if the Browns have depends on who's got great picks.
But see, here's the thing: the Browns have the 1st and the 4th round pick in this upcoming draft.
Wow.
So
Beckham Jr.
If they traded away that, now I don't think they will because I think they want a quarterback in one of those picks. But if they traded those 2 picks away, they get Odell Beckham Jr. if they believe in the other quarterbacks that they have there in Cleveland right now. Because they traded for Tyrod Taylor, right, from the Bills, got him, and, so they have a quarterback. Now, how good would he look with a receiver like Odell Beckham Jr.? Now, you pair that with Josh Gordon if he can keep himself off his herbal remedies, right?
Yeah, no kidding.
You keep him, healthy. You've got a decent running back set there. Like, the Browns could literally make waves if they wanted to go get Odell Beckham Jr.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
Because then, think about this. Then if the Giants say, hey, we'll take your first and your 1-4 this year, and you can have Odell. Well, then the Browns, right, trade those. Then you have the Giants, get this, would be hilarious, drafting 1, 2, and 4.
Bruh.
So, I mean, theoretically, if a team like Cleveland wanted to go out and get another superstar wide receiver, they could.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, they could do it because the thing is, we've already seen with the Colts, right? The higher up you are in the draft, the more valued that pick is. So having 1 and 4, that's super valuable. You could get, Odell and probably even maybe another, like, minor kind of player, like a smaller named player from them for, like, your 1 and 4.
I don't know how I feel about them trading him. I love OBJ. I'm just throwing that out there. I love him. So I'm just saying, some of the commercials that he's in is just hilarious. But I don't want him to be traded, but at the same time, I feel like he's gotten watered down by the Giants. If that makes sense.
No, I think I understand what you're saying there, being watered down. Like, he doesn't look as spectacular as he could.
Right.
The same goes for Antonio Brown. Right. Would Antonio Brown look as good if he didn't have Big Ben throwing to him? Eli Manning and Odell had a connection. Well, then they bench Eli for a couple games and try out, Geno Smith and all that. And then he looks a little more mundane. The thing with receivers is there's, obviously a difference between, like, the elite receivers, a guy like a Randy Moss, a Jerry Rice, right? Those two could make any quarterback they played with look really good. But, is Odell in that league, or is he maybe just that below where he needs a halfway decent quarterback, right? Because when him and Eli are tandeming up, they tear it up. He looks like an absolute superstar.
Yeah, see, the problem is I'm not sure how I feel about the Giants have, like, 3 picks just in the first 5.
I mean, and let's be like, I'm not saying that obviously we have no insight.
I get it, but
it's just like speculation. Like, hey, if you're the Browns and you wanted to, because maybe if you're the Browns, you go, well, we don't really know if Josh Gordon can keep himself clean enough to play, right? He's had problems with drug usage, with marijuana, weed, right? That's been his issue. He's been suspended, and he's made his way back, and you can see how good he is when he is on the field.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Josh Gordon is amazing when he's on the field, but it's, can he keep himself on the field? And to pair a guy like Odell Beckham Jr. with him, if he can't stay on the field, that's like an insurance policy for you if you're the Browns. I don't think the Browns will do it because I think they, with the way the picks go at, 1 and 4, they could possibly get their franchise quarterback and their franchise running back with those 2 picks. So do we trade those and get a stud wide receiver?
No. I don't think OBJ is that worth it.
But at the same time, he is experienced, and you know what he's capable of. You're bringing these rookies in, and you know what they can do in college. You know what they did. You know what they tested at. But sometimes there's a difference when they get to the NFL. You also don't know what distractions they may find or may cause.
I can agree with what you're saying. I just don't think that OBJ is, I guess,
I don't think you'd be worth that price.
Right. I just don't think he's enough for that. And I don't think the Browns would want to do that. But it depends on how they look at OBJ.
But it's an amazing scenario, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like to have like that.
But
1 through 4, because I mean, you think about it. Right there, the Giants could get their next franchise quarterback, because we all know Eli's getting older. They could get their franchise running back, and then at 4, you could go get a receiver, or you could go, get a defensive player or something, whatever you would need there at 4. Then 4 becomes more of a need, but like at the same time, you need a running back and a quarterback. If you had those picks, you could take care of that with 1 and 2. And the Jets are going to take a quarterback at 3.
Oh, yeah.
So then you can go, get Chubb, and shore up your defensive line. So
that sounds kind of deadly, but at
well,
the same
it does.
time,
And to have those picks all come together would be amazing. But I don't know if anybody will actually pay the price. If anybody does, I think it's the Rams. Because I think if the Rams are interested enough to maybe even do a first round, now even trading a first round, right? That almost still seems like a bargain if it were just the one first round pick for OBJ.
Well, and also number has a big.
Because the Rams,
problem.
I think, are picking 21st or something like that. So, like, that's later in the first round, not as valuable. We saw what it took, once again, for the Jets to go from 6 to picking number 3. They obviously swapped that pick and then gave up a couple more second-rounders and I think another pick or two after that. So just to move up those 3 spots cost them a lot, in the end. So
I think overall, I think he's going to get traded to where I feel the Rams are probably going to have him. But then again, I'm not going to count out the Browns. I just don't think that
I don't
think they value OBJ as like two first round picks in top 5.
Well, and I don't think you can count out the Browns, especially the way they've stacked picks recently, And you see that sometimes in the NBA. You saw the 76ers kind of do that as they cleared house as well, right? They stacked up picks, upon picks, and then they could turn those into a better 1 pick or something, So you can't count out the Browns. I don't think they'll pull that trigger because I think they want a QB at number 1. But you just can't count them out, I think.
No, definitely not. I think that they definitely have a greater chance of, making this team better than what it was last year.
So then, the other thing we mentioned, the Rams, right? The Rams seem to be on a roll and trying to, they seem like they're not just waiting their time, right, until Jared Goff becomes the superstar that they think he will be, right? You saw with Todd Gurley there, right? Running backs have such a short shelf life in the NFL that they go out and they shore up their defense by going to get Ndamukong Suh, from the free agent market. So I think that is a big pickup for them. He's still got some tread on those tires. Will he be the player he was in Detroit? I don't think so.
No.
But, if he's close to it, that's going to help. I think Wade Phillips is their defensive coordinator, right? It's going to help that defense to strengthen up as well. Because, if your cornerbacks can be all the best cornerbacks and safeties and all that in the league, but if you can't get any push from the line, right, there's nothing they can do.
Well, not only that, but there's no pressure on the quarterback, so he's got enough time to.
Well, and that's that. The Legion of Boom, right? When it was a thing in Seattle, you had great DBs, but you also were getting a huge push from the defensive line, which helped out the DBs because they didn't have to guard as long, right? They didn't have to try to stay with them as long, and it didn't take so much energy. So for the Rams, they seem to be doing something. And, let's be honest, the Browns seem to also be doing something. And as we encroach on the draft, it'll be interesting to see if they, try to move those 2 picks or if they're even listening to anybody trying to get into those 2 picks. Because the Browns have done that in the past. They've moved back and all that, once again, to pick up more. So they have a lot of value there with the first and fourth pick. But if we move briefly here, right, away from the draft, right, and we go to some of these pro days, a guy who's been showing up at a couple different pro days, and he's trying to get his way back in, is Johnny Manziel, right? He's trying to get his way back in. He seems to have really cleaned up his act, and has a really good pro day down at Texas A&M. He helps them out, kind of helps the wide receivers out there. He went to, I think, San Diego State, was helping some wide receivers out there as well. And then you see that the Patriots, right, are talking with him. They talked to him, I think it was for like 30 minutes or so after that pro day, and apparently they weren't the only ones. So, he also said that, Canadian Football League also would be an option. Obviously, as anybody would want to, NFL is first priority.
Oh, yeah.
If he can't make it there, he would consider going up to the Canadian Football League to play there just because he wants to play the game of football again. And I can't blame him if that's been your whole life, right? Then, when you get to this point and you're not able to play again, I'm sure it makes it hard.
Well, and there's not enough passion, I feel, out in sports these days. So if he's got the passion, I'm all for it. You were talking about him having a great pro day and all that. Life-wise, he is not a good example. I'm sorry.
Well,
but
everything he puts out now, and obviously we don't know everything behind the scenes, but what you see now is a 180-degree turn from the Johnny Manziel that was in Cleveland, that was at Texas A&M, and I think it's also a caution to younger athletes as well. Be careful when this fame and fortune comes your way, right? Because it could be that he wasn't with the crowd he needed to be running with. He could have just let it all go to his head thinking he was invincible. And he seems to have kind of come off that attitude a little bit. And once again, not being around him, you don't fully know, but everything you see, everything you can read, that comes from him has seemed to really changed his tone.
It's like a book cover.
It is.
You just got to get into the book.
Well, but as you even talk about books, right? It's been a couple years now, but I read Josh Hamilton's book. This superstar baseball athlete, and gets injured and then ends up, kind of being on his own and finding his way into drug usage and all that. And to the point where he can't control it, right? They're running his life. But then he's able to turn it around now. Unfortunately, he's relapsed with alcohol and that a couple times here and there. But that's also a battle he will always fight in his life. And I'm not, saying Johnny Manziel's story is the exact same. But at the same time, right, that fame and all that gets to you, and it could even be lonely. So you go party with everybody to make yourself feel included in everything.
I can agree. And it also depends on how you grew up and where you grew up. I feel like that also has a big effect on what you do later in life when you get that fame.
But, all this Johnny Manziel talk also to say, wouldn't it be the Patriots thing to do to go sign him, right? To kind of be the heir apparent to Tom Brady. And, to even bring him in. Now, having said that, right, the Patriots aren't afraid to bring in somebody of his media stature, let's say. Right? They're not afraid to bring in somebody that brings a lot of media in because a guy like Tim Tebow that you and I both love, right?
Yeah.
And, they bring him into camp and they don't mind the media attention around them. But at the same time, right, the Patriots could bring him in and, have him as a backup QB and then end up trading him somewhere else because, somebody else has seen, hey, he does actually have some stuff left in him.
I'm going to be honest with you. If Tom Brady retires, right, Johnny Manziel takes his spot. Say he doesn't get traded. Say he takes his spot, right?
Right, they sign him.
I like Johnny. Patriots, don't ruin Johnny for me. Don't make me not like him. Don't do that.
Now, having said that, you're talking about the Patriots ruining somebody for you. I just happened to think of this when you were talking. Right, there's been some talk that the Patriots might take a QB in the draft. Right? The Patriots, by a lot of people, are hated.
Oh, yeah.
You being a Louisville fan, Lamar Jackson's out there when it comes to the Patriots pick. Then how do you feel about the Patriots if he is declared kind of the heir apparent to Tom Brady?
Look, Lamar is kind of my hero right now.
Look, I like Lamar as well. But I don't know if I can like Lamar if he goes to the Patriots.
Patriots are not I'd fanboy over the Patriots, bro. And I know that sounds so ridiculous, but like
you'd jump on that bandwagon, wouldn't you?
I'd jump on it and I'd be like, Lamar Jackson, number 8, yes, yep, best QB ever. I just like if you adore somebody so much, no matter where they go, you're just gonna love where they go. Yeah, I feel like they're like even scouts today. Football, basketball, baseball, whatever. If you love a guy that much and he goes to another place, say it's a Houston Astros, right? Hate the Houston Astros, but he went there. You're going to love the Houston Astros after that.
Well, and it may not be that you love the Houston Astros, but you love one player on the Houston Astros, right?
Yeah.
And that's the way I would kind of feel if, like, Lamar went there. Now, having said that, I think that would be an amazing situation for him to get into.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's where he's going to fall maybe a little bit later in the first round.
I would agree, yeah.
I think the latest mock draft I saw earlier today, I think he was in like the 15 to 16 range. I forget who he was going to.
That's not bad.
But, you know, the Patriots obviously are right at the end of the first round. So if he falls to him, I wouldn't be surprised to see him take him. But
let's go Patriots.
You know, we'll talk a little more in depth of the NFL draft and the way kind of things play out and the way things are looking as it gets a little bit closer. It's still a little bit away for us to really go in depth on it. But kind of the last thing here that we had discussed NFL wise, right? Fox bought the rights for Thursday Night Football. Now, it was apparently they were going after like Peyton Manning to be an announcer.
Yeah.
For Thursday Night Football. Now, because, you know, Tony Romo had so much success with it, they thought they would have their version of Tony Romo, and Peyton Manning, who they clearly would have thought, you know, better player and all that, be a better commentator. Now, big deal or no deal that that Peyton Manning turned down Fox for that gig? What do you think? Big deal, no deal?
It's kind of a no deal. Like, I get it. Like, if you're a Peyton Manning fan, I could see where it could be a big deal for you. But at the same time, like, it's not that huge of a deal. Maybe for, like, Fox, of course it is, because, you know, try to pay him this much and
that's the
goes
thing.
downhill.
If that was your man, you know, we talked last episode about U of L having, right, their one option in Chris Mack. Well, if Chris Mack says, no, I want to stay here at Xavier, then what does U of L do?
Right, plan
you know,
B.
Obviously Fox probably has other lined up because they apparently had been auditioning a bunch of people. But I think Manning might have been their, like number one
guy.
choice, obviously. So
right.
I'm with you. I don't really think it's a huge deal. But I think it would have been interesting to hear him in the booth.
Yeah, I feel like
I just don't know how it would have worked. You know?
I don't really see him as much as a commentator or talker, though.
No, I agree. I see Peyton Manning maybe taking a role if he wants to, maybe coaching, but I don't even see that. I see him going like front office, like John Elway, to be the GM of a team. Hey, maybe even to one day own a team. That's more the way I see a Peyton Manning going. I
can agree with that.
He seems to be that quieter person, right?
Yeah.
More a little bit private kind of person that would rather, you know, do the GM thing, and he probably will land that gig one day, I would assume. But, you know, that shifting out of the NFL talk, and before we get into our Final Four talk on the men and women's tournament, a couple things to hit that came out today and yesterday, I think it was. First off, the first thing that comes out a little bit before we sat down here to record tonight, Rylee, was that Joel Embiid will be out approximately 2 to 4 weeks having due to an orbital fracture and having to have that surgery to repair the orbital fracture.
That's so sad.
And it's like he can't catch a break. No pun intended, obviously, with his injury history. But he gets healthy almost, and then it seems like something happened. He has the whole foot issue and all that, and he just seems to be really recovering from it. And now he's got an orbital fracture.
Look, man,
and the thing, when he comes back, I'm sure he's gonna have to play with a mask for a while to protect it. To make sure it still fully heals. So
I'm just saying, trust the process.
Well, and that's what he'll probably tell people, right? I'm just trusting the process through this. But in all seriousness, though, it puts the first round of the playoffs kind of in jeopardy for them.
I feel like they were a threat, and now they're just kind of like, it's like a watered-down version of the 76ers right now. Because all you got is Markelle Fultz and Ben Simmons.
I could agree with you there.
Names. There's just no big names.
I think they still might be a bit of a threat, but I think this also does lower their chances because he's such a dynamic player that it changes, the way they play and all that. So right now they sit fourth, just behind. They're a half game behind the Cavs for third spot in the East. So let's see, I'm trying to think of how it goes. Let's see. 1 plays 8, 7 plays 2, 3 plays 6. So it's a 4-5 matchup. Okay. That's what I thought it was. But that would mean the 76ers have to take on the Pacers, who, by the way, are only a half game back of them, for the 4th spot without a Joel Embiid. Possibly. Now, the 2-week time frame would put him back right at the beginning of the first round. But as and they may be a little more cautious to not go right at that 2-week time frame. He could miss the entire first round, which would be a huge blow for the 76ers.
Oh, yeah. You said they're facing the Pacers in the first round?
Well, if the playoffs were starting right now,
okay,
they would be playing the Pacers in the first round.
Okay.
Which are only a half game back of them in the playoff race here.
Well, first off, the Pacers are not as well skilled as the 76ers, even without Joel. Who you got?
Victor Oladipo, Lance Stevenson, Miles Turner. I mean, they have a decent core.
They have an they have an average squad.
Well, yeah.
At least in my
think
opinion.
you're downplaying, though, Victor Oladipo's impact because he's been amazing this year. I think for the 76ers, right, you have Joel Embiid, you have Ben Simmons, and you have now Markelle Fultz back. Don't forget the 76ers still have J.J. Redick.
Yeah, that's true.
So, they have a lot of talent there, and they have bigger names. For the Pacers, Lance Stevenson's not as big of a name unless he's blowing in LeBron James' ear.
Exactly.
But he's still a really good player.
Look, I love Victor, but I just don't think they have enough skill and enough push to get through the 76ers, even without Joel.
I think they would make it more competitive than you are making it out for the Pacers to be.
I just don't think they got it, man. I mean, Victor has been insane this year. I've seen his stats. His stats are way more impressive, than they were at I believe the Orlando Magic. He has been going off this year.
Well, hang on. That you said that, it just sparked something in my head. He was with the Magic, I think, and then he got traded to the Thunder. And he got traded from the Thunder when the PG-13 trade went down.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, now I remember. Thank you for refreshing my memory.
It just sparked because he was at OKC and he was playing pretty good alongside Russ. But now he's the man in Indiana, and he's been playing pretty good this season.
Lance is pretty good. Victor's pretty good.
Miles Turner doesn't get a lot of talk, but he's pretty good himself. A lot of teams would take Miles Turner.
And I'm not, dissing the Pacers. I think they're a great team. I think they've always been a great team. I just don't think they have enough to get past the 76ers, if so.
I think in the long run, yeah, I agree with you. In the long run, I don't think they have enough to get past. But, hey, while I'm here, if the playoffs ended right now, here would be your first-round matchups, okay?
Okay.
Raptors, Bucks, Celtics, Heat, Cavs, Warriors, or Wizards, excuse me. Cavs, Wizards, 76ers, Pacers. So, even the Raptors, I think at the first slot, don't have an easy first-round matchup as it were now with the Bucks.
Oh, yeah.
Because you would have to then go and deal with Giannis and Eric Bledsoe and, the rest of the... it's not an easy cakewalk.
No.
But you look at even that Cavs-Wizards, man, that could be a tough series, but at the same time, then you see playoff LeBron, come out.
And that's why I feel like when you said the Cavs and the Wizards, I thought John Wall versus LeBron. But then I realized it's playoff LeBron. And then I was like, okay, LeBron gear mode.
Well, and, the Wizards, they've been playing good while Wall was out. And is he still out or is he back now?
I'm not too sure.
I think he's still out. But, I think he's due to be back in time for the playoffs. But, Bradley Beal's been playing good. And Otto Porter's been playing good.
I was going to say, those are pretty much the only two superstars on their team.
That's still the thing. The Cavs, you get in, and as you said, that LeBron, shifts into this other, it's like his alter ego almost. Batman has
Bruce Wayne.
Right.
And then you got
Superman
Batman.
has Clark Kent.
Right.
Right. So, it's like he goes into that, that phone booth or whatever and changes real quick, and then he comes out and he's playoff LeBron.
Oh yeah.
But for getting back on track here after we, got our little sidebar there.
A little bit.
This, 76ers losing Joel could really affect, that playoff matchup right now with the Pacers. Because, you think about it, then you have Ben Simmons maybe going against a Miles Turner instead of Joel going against Miles Turner and freeing Ben Simmons up to go out, to the wing a little more or something. But at the same time, Miles Turner would have to play both of them. Both of them are tough matchups.
Oh, yeah.
So, somewhat of a big loss, especially this late in the season for the 76ers. But, hopefully they could trust the process enough and he'll get healed up enough and be ready to go for the playoffs. If not, maybe he comes back midway through the first round or something. So
hopefully.
The other thing, injury-wise especially, in the NBA is a guy who was been traded, twice already this year and had an issue last year in the playoffs. And, of course, we're talking about Isaiah Thomas, right? Going in to have, I believe it was arthroscopic surgery on his hip, the same hip that he injured in the playoffs, right? They're basically going in, kind of cleaning that joint out, getting all the debris and anything else to, clean it out, make it work better for him. But, we did big deal or no deal with Peyton Manning Fox thing. Let's do the same thing here. Big deal or no deal that Isaiah is now having to have his hip once again cleaned out, and their recovery time on this is 4 months. So obviously he's done for the rest of the year. The Lakers are just in 11th position. Probably won't be able to make it up because they are 6.5 games back of the 8th spot right now. So obviously the season's almost winding down. I don't even know if they have enough time to really make that up. But big deal or no deal for Isaiah having to have another surgery on that same hip?
Big deal. It's it's like his second surgery on the hip, so it's gonna affect him basketball wise, always. And if it happens again, which will suck, it's gonna start wearing him down slowly but surely. And I don't think it's a big deal for the Lakers because, they still got Lonzo and people like that.
I agree with you there. Not a big deal for the Lakers because you have Lonzo and all that. But at the same time, at the same time, maybe they weren't planning on signing him back. Now, the reports are that they are still interested in signing him as a free agent, but at the same time, they knew what they were getting when they traded from the Cavs, that his contract ran out, and maybe that was their whole plan the entire time. But I'm right there with you. I think this is a big deal for Isaiah, for his health, and even for his playing career. Now, I think I think this is kind of one of those kind of precautionary things to do to clean it all up, to make it work better for him. Maybe we won't have as many problems with it in the future. But at the same time, you're talking second surgery, and now what would be under a year on that same hip. So, I've heard from many former NBA players, right, the problems that they have with their hips, the surgeries that they have to have afterwards, even a lot of them having to have hip replacements. Just because that constant movement, the bouncing, all of that interaction that goes into playing, an 82-game season.
Yeah.
And, at this point, maybe Isaiah needs to start looking, maybe not so much for his NBA future, but his future after basketball. Because I don't know if this will, really derail his career, but it's something that also could rear its ugly head in the future. And maybe make teams a little leery of signing him this offseason, right? It probably also just lost him a bunch of money to have to do this again.
Oh, yeah.
In the same sense that I think DeMarcus Cousins, right, because his Achilles tore on him, that he lost maybe some free agency money due to fear that he may not be ever that healthy again.
Right.
So,
I can understand that.
I agree. Big deal for him. Personally, not so much of a deal for the Lakers because he may have not been in their plans in the first place. But enough of all that, enough of the NFL talk, enough of the NBA talk. It's time to dive in. We have the Final Four of the men's and women's NCAA tournament happening. And we have the Final Four coming up. So our thoughts, predictions, because by the time we go to record this again next week, we'll either be recording on the evening as the national championship happens, or we're going to record right the day after. So let's start with the men's Final Four matchups. So for the men's, on one side you have Loyola Chicago, Michigan. Let's start there on that one. Does Loyola Chicago have the ability to get past Michigan with Sister Jean on their side, obviously? Does Loyola Chicago have enough to get past Michigan?
Okay. First, I want to say I want Loyola to win. I want them. But I don't think they will. I think Michigan has enough power and a little bit more skill And don't get me wrong, I give Loyola props for getting to the Final Four.
Well, they are. That team is extremely fundamentally sound. They play as a team. And the thing for them is they play a very similar defense to the way Virginia plays, but they can score, unlike Virginia, right? Virginia has to keep your score low. Loyola Chicago can score the basketball. So, that could be a difference with that defense for Michigan.
But I do think Michigan will move on. And not just for my bracket's sake, don't get me wrong.
No, I understand what you're saying. Because I kind of lean the same way you do. It's one of those like fence walks where you've got a slight lean toward Michigan. Because obviously at this point, the Cinderella story, right? The glass slipper is on Loyola Chicago. And I think they have enough, but I think Michigan has a little bit more firepower than what Loyola Chicago has kind of ran into so far. But at the same time, if they're ahead against Michigan, you might as well mark it in the books that Loyola Chicago is going to the championship game.
Oh, yeah.
Because they have not lost a single game this year when they have been ahead at halftime. Think about like all season long. You're not just talking about the NCAA tournament, obviously. You're not talking about just conference play. You're talking the entire season. If they are ahead at halftime, you might as well go ahead and mark the game as over.
See, like, I like those kind of teams, but at the same time I don't because, of course, as you said earlier on, that, they haven't lost a game if they were leading at halftime. So that, those kind of games where I'm like, really? Okay, so we already know who's going to win. What's the point? That's the reason I don't like those teams. But I like those teams because, like, if they're a team I like or I'm cheering for, of course, that, you're going to be happy and know that you're going to stay in there.
Now, having said that, there's always that one team, right, that could throw off that stat. Michigan could be that team. Loyola Chicago could be ahead. But Michigan could just prove to be too much for them in the end and beat them. Then obviously they'd have one and everybody go, yeah, but they didn't beat Michigan. It's like, no, but they also won like 28 other games when they were up at half. So, like, that's impressive. You go back a few years to Kentucky, Wisconsin. Yeah, they ended up losing to Wisconsin. But at the same time, prior to losing to Wisconsin, they had 38 straight victories. Like, yes, the Indiana teams, Bob Knight had a team go undefeated and win the tournament. But he also didn't play 38 games. So, I think it's 28-0 when they're up at half, Loyola Chicago. If they lose one, it's been an incredible ride already for them.
No doubt about it.
I kind of want to pick Loyola Chicago.
It's just not going to happen.
I can't convince myself that they can get past Michigan.
Michigan
now,
has been beast.
Having said that, I will fully admit if Loyola Chicago beats Michigan, they are my pick to win it all. Just because, it almost seems like it's destiny then, right? It's,
Sister Jean.
Well, divine intervention, right? Like, it almost seems like you just might as well just stop it there, stop the tournament there and just give it to them. But the other matchup in the men's side is Villanova, Kansas. Now, a lot of people didn't have Kansas beating Duke, which that was a great game.
Oh, yeah, it was stellar.
But what you also saw is Kansas just kind of say, hey, Grayson Allen, you can try to do your thing. But at the same time, we're not just going to let you get yourself started. He struggled mightily for them. And, in the end, Kansas comes out the victor. Villanova, I think everybody kind of downplayed them. I even downplayed them.
I as well.
And I had them losing to West Virginia.
Correct.
So, Well, but you look at that game. That game was close.
Oh, yeah, it was.
So, they're still a really tough team, and I think they're just an underestimated team. I think, Xavier people overestimated as a one, and I think Villanova was underestimated. So, that being said, Villanova, Kansas, which side of the fence do you... Because for me, I want to say Kansas, but I think it's Villanova.
I'm going to say Kansas.
I think Villanova, right, they have named Player of the Year is today. I think I saw it on my phone pop up. Right, they have the Associated Press Player of the Year, I think it was. But there's something with Villanova that
it's like they got the lucky charm.
Well, and it like almost seems like it's destined to be like Villanova, Loyola, Chicago, two teams that obviously everybody underestimated and never thought would have been meeting up in the national championship game. But I think Villanova might be too strong. But here's also, I think, a huge factor. Villanova doesn't go very deep. And you've seen the games where they need to go a little bit deeper, right? Bench on their bench. Those have been kind of the games that they've struggled in. So
I think Kansas has the momentum. Sorry.
You just like to say momentum, don't you?
It's I don't know. It's like a speaking problem.
I need to turn that into a drop for this.
Momentum. That'd be cool. We should do that. Anyways, back to what I was saying. I feel like they have the momentum, and that I feel like they have enough hype behind them to get past Villanova. And also, I kind of want someone new in there, to be honest with you. So, I wouldn't mind if Loyola wins. I wouldn't mind if Kansas won. I wouldn't mind if any of those guys won. I think either way, it's going to be a great championship game, no matter who wins.
I agree with you. Jalen Brunson being named Player of the Year by the AP, I think makes me lean a little bit more toward Villanova. And I think the other thing to look at is Azubuike for Kansas, right? If it comes down to crunch time, you got to pull him out. You got to pull that big man out because he shoots at 47% or something like that. It might be lower on his free throws.
Yeah.
So you obviously would have to pull him out. But what happens if you can't, right? What happens if you're in the foul trouble where you can't afford to take him out? He has no backups or anything like that. So that, honestly, if I had to pick which game will be closer, I think it's the Villanova-Kansas. Maybe it comes down to a buzzer beater. I think Loyola-Chicago could be close. I could see them also kind of keeping a lead on Michigan. I can see Michigan keeping the lead. For some reason, I feel like that game, one way or the other, will be kind of a 10, 15-point victory. And the Villanova-Kansas game comes down to maybe a buzzer beater or at most a 5-point victory.
I was going to say buzzer beater would be my ideal for the Villanova-Kansas.
And I just, it seems like it's set up just for that way.
Right.
But now to give the women's side some attention as well, because we haven't talked about it actually, I don't even think we've talked about it at all, other than mentioning UConn and, being, similar to as we talk about the Warriors, right, that until somebody beats them, right, it just seems like you always got to pick them. So in the women's bracket, you have on one side it's U of L, it's University of Louisville versus Mississippi State. And then the other side is UConn and Notre Dame, which the thing that out of these four teams is impressive the most to me is that UConn is now in their 11th straight Final Four.
That's insane, dude.
11 consecutive Final Four appearances. Like, obviously you're not saying they won each time, but to be in there 11 consecutive years, like, props to you. Like,
oh, yeah.
And people will say that, UConn being this good, being this dominant over women's college basketball is bad for women's college basketball. I disagree.
As well.
Well, because you look at the NBA, right? Everybody hates the Warriors or loves the Warriors, right? Everyone wants to see the Warriors win or lose. And I think it's helped. And you get to UConn women's college basketball, right? They've been such a dominant force. Tennessee used to be right up there with them, but after Pat Summitt retired and passed, Tennessee just hasn't been quite the same as of a powerhouse. But what Gino Auriemma has been able to build there in UConn, where, it every game, even if you're the second best team in the nation, it seems like a David and Goliath type of matchup. U of L played UConn earlier in the year. And, that could be a potential final game. The U of L women kind of got down at first, but then they were able to make up some steam, and you could see where they could have the potential to beat UConn, so it makes you go, I want to see that again. But I honestly think it could be that U of L UConn matchup again in the championship game. Now, both teams obviously have a hard task. UConn has Notre Dame to play against. U of L has Mississippi State, a great basketball team. And, going back to the UConn women's, I would take some of the UConn women's teams of the past and maybe even today's and put them against men's teams in those eras, and I guarantee you they'd probably win.
Oh, yeah. The men are not as good compared to the girls. In my opinion, I think that the skill level is so low for the guys, and the skill level for the girls are just out of this world.
Well, I think for the guys, right, it's I'm big, I'm fast, I'm strong for a lot of them. But when it comes to the women's game, right, height-wise, for the most part, there's not usually a whole lot of separation. But, you get a point guard out for the women's game, and you watch them. They can, break ankles just as well as the men can.
That's like
it is a slower paced game, it seems to be, just because, physicality-wise, most women cannot run as fast, jump as high, right? There's not as many dunks in the women's game. But at the same time, that's what makes it interesting when a woman can dunk. Brittany Griner, if she got out on the break, everybody's going, is she going to dunk it? I just watched the McDonald's All-American game, and I watched the Powerade Jam Fest or whatever it is the night before. Watched slam dunk competition. There's a young lady going to UConn next year. She can throw it down. She's only 6'5". So, and I say only 6'5", but in the women's game, that's
right,
pretty
that's
tall.
Pretty tall. Yeah.
But, she goes running, and it wasn't anything like Zion Williamson did, going between the legs. But you also don't see as many women dunking. And, she was going up to dunk two-handed, which is harder to dunk two-handed than one-handed. So, she was right there. She just came up a little bit short dunking two-handed, but you could tell her legs were tired by then. But, both of these games on the women's side, you can almost see going either way.
Yeah.
Because you can see them being close in a nail-biter, or for UConn, you could see them blowing out Notre Dame. I could see U of L blowing out Mississippi State. If I'm picking the teams to come out of the women's, I go UConn, and then like for me, it's like it's almost a coin flip for U of L, Mississippi State.
That's the problem.
But I want to lean Mississippi State. But there just seems to be something to me about this U of L team that seems poised to be able to maybe break through. I think it was said the other day, I think I heard somewhere that Jeff Walls, each class that he has had there at U of L, everybody that has come through at some point in their career playing at U of L has been to a Final Four, which is also impressive.
Oh, yeah.
And I think, a few years ago, I think they actually made it to the title game.
Who? U of L?
U of L.
Yeah.
But it would set up, this colossal matchup between them and UConn, a second time, see if U of L handles. Because, let's be honest, that first game was played in Connecticut. So, on a neutral floor, U of L fans are a little bit closer. Could be a different story.
By the way, the one I remember is 2013. Was the last time I remember that they were in the championship game.
That probably actually was the last time they were in it.
Just saying, if the guys and the girls would have won, that would have been so awesome.
Yeah, well, UConn did it before, but whatever.
Yeah, UConn's nuts.
Well, it was one of those. The women are constantly winning it, and the men won it in that same year. But what are your thoughts on this Final Four, and what would you say? Because I think I'm going to go UConn, U of L. Slight hesitation on the U of L because of Mississippi State. But my picks are UConn, U of L. And I think U of L could get it done. I think it all depends on the start of the game for them and UConn. And that literally is a toss-up. And I would lean a little bit toward UConn on that one. And go with UConn winning once again. Because I think maybe overall UConn may just have too much power. But Asia Durr is a really good player. So your thoughts on the women's Final Four here?
I think it's going to be interesting. Of course, I feel that UConn is probably going to win. But I'm not going to put anything to Notre Dame. I've heard that they're pretty good. About the same as U of L and Mississippi State. And if they beat UConn, I would be surprised. But I have a feeling that UConn will probably win over that. I feel it's going to be UConn. And, of course, U of L. But as you were saying earlier, it is like a coin flip. Or a coin toss.
I think both of them are, a coin flip. Either way, for both of those games, maybe UConn has a little bit more probability in my heart, in my mind, to win than like the U of L Mississippi State, where it's almost like a dead even race. Maybe 51-49% U of L, and the UConn one is maybe more of a 65-35 for UConn or something like that. So, but anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Back to your picks there for the Final Four.
I feel that Asia Durr is going to pull it out. Of course, as always, I think Jeff Walls is a great coach. I just think U of L might have a little bit more energy in them than Mississippi State. But I think it will be a close game, and I think it will be a good game. So it should be exciting to see that game specifically. But I do think U of L is going to pull it off, and it's going to be UConn, U of L. And the UConn U of L game, if that happens, I was watching before the tournament started, and it was UConn, U of L. And the problem I had is UConn got ahead by like 5 points. And after that, it was like U of L gave up, and they just kind of it's like they just gave up. They didn't care. And once they got the lead, it was just over for them. But
well, I mean, to interrupt you once again, to be fair, I think a lot of teams do that with UConn. UConn gets ahead by 10, maybe even 15 or whatever, and they are just morally, they're demoralized. They have no fight in them. And I think that's what happened to U of L in that first matchup, as you were talking about. UConn just hopped out so fast. U of L was struggling that by the time U of L figured it out, it was too far gone. Because, let's be honest, UConn kind of is that team. They jump out, and then the other team's just so defeated that they have nothing left for them. But continue once again.
Right. I think UConn is a great team, and I've always liked them. Of course, there is a part of me that doesn't like them just because they do keep winning. But I give props to them. They're a great team. I'm of course, as a U of L fan, I'm hoping U of L pulls it out. Like you said, if U of L can get this jump start this time instead of UConn, I feel it will be U of L's game. But if it happens again like the last game, they probably will get behind and get down. And granted, it is the championship, but with UConn, it's hard not to just be like, I'm done. There's no way we're coming back from this.
Let's also be honest. Like, for UConn teams, being in the Final Four in the national championship is like the norm, right? It's like, man, we're here every year. So if you are, a team that hasn't been there for a few years or hasn't, been there at all or whatever it might be, you come every other year. You still would have ladies that, get a little nervous when that ball tips. So, it's, I think it'll be a close matchup for both of these, but I'm with you. I think UConn's experience in their prior, right, their prerequisites, I guess you could say, what's come before them and their experience, I think will play a factor, kind of that been there, done that. But the last thing to get to here in place of our random funny news story, whatever you might be, is a great debate, Rylee, that is sweeping the nation. And it all starts somewhat, and it's been a debate happening before, but Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Supreme Court Justice for the United States, said that a hot dog is a sandwich. So,
oh no,
where do you lie on, is a hot dog a sandwich? Let me get your thoughts first.
No, but I can see where people can think so, because you gotta think, right? Like an actual sandwich, like a bologna sandwich, say for instance, right? You got two pieces of bread, okay? Then you got bologna, lettuce, mayo, whatever it is in the middle. That's a sandwich. But with a hot dog, saying a hot dog bun, right? You got bread on both sides. And then you got the hot dog and whatever you want in the middle. So I can see it as a sandwich. But it's not a sandwich. I'm sorry. Like, it requires actually real bread and different kind of meats to be a sandwich. I'm sorry. But I don't get it.
But hang on.
Here we go.
Would you call and I'm going to say sandwich here, a sandwich that you get at Subway a sandwich?
Yes.
But that is one full loaf that they stick a knife into and they cut. They do not cut it fully, but they put the meat and the veggies and all that there in between the bread, and you still call that a sandwich. But because the hot dog bun opens up similarly to the way a Subway sandwich does, and it's a hot dog instead of meat and veggies and all that, you say it's not a sandwich.
You know what's funny? Is you brought up the same example I was literally about to bring up, which is kind of weird and freaky. Stop it. Stop. You're reading my mind, aren't you?
But, that's my thing. I can see exactly where she's coming from. It's something I had never given really a thought to, because to me a hot dog is a hot dog.
Right.
But to say that it's a sandwich, I can understand. Now, speaking earlier to my wife on the subject, her explanation, right, is you eat a hot dog in a different direction than you eat a sandwich, if you think about it, right?
That's
Typically,
true.
the opening on a hot dog you would eat with it sticking straight up. On a sandwich, right? It's facing the other direction, right? So horizontal versus, I guess, vertically, if you want to put it that way. But if you are, talking about this, and if we get technical with what a sandwich is, and I went to the Merriam-Webster dictionary and looked up the definition of a sandwich.
Oh, God.
Here's what it says. 2 or more slices of bread or a split roll having a filling in between. And then it says below that 1 slice of bread covered with food because, right, you have an open-faced sandwich that some people eat, but you've kind of changed the definition of a sandwich then by making it an open face. So 2 or more slices of bread or a split roll having a filling in between. Does a hot dog not constitute that definition?
No.
How does it not?
Okay, so you said split, right? Split
roll.
Split roll. Okay. Well, you go to Subway, right? Sometimes they don't leave it with like the edges, still attached. They cut it. Now, if you're looking at a flatbread, that's kind of different. But that I feel like it's still a sandwich. So I mean, imagine like a huge old hot dog, right?
Yeah, but see, here's the thing: at Subway, they still they may accidentally cut all the way through, but they are literally splitting a loaf of bread, a roll, if you will. They are splitting it to put the filling in between the pieces of bread.
I'm right, you're wrong. Nope. No.
No. But here's my
go.
thing. If I take a hot dog and I put it between 2 slices of bread, is it then a sandwich instead of being a hot dog?
Yes.
No, it is still the same thing. It is still a sandwich.
Nope. I'm right, you're wrong.
No,
because it requires different bread. That's what my thing is. It requires different kind of bread. It depends on what kind of bread you're talking about.
No, it does not require a different kind of bread. It is like the same texture, the same kind of bread that is a hamburger bun is made out of. It's just in a different form. It is the same thing. A hot dog is a sandwich.
Okay. Let me ask you this, right?
By definition, a hot dog is a sandwich.
You look at a regular sandwich, right? And you're stacking it, right? You're stacking it, making it taller. Vertical, by the way. Vertical. You look at a burger, like a burger, just a regular old burger, right? You're stacking it. Hot dog, you don't stack. It doesn't go vertical unless you're like...
No, says who? If you put the condiments on top, does it not then go vertical?
No, it's still horizontal.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No.
What do you mean? Look.
If I put relish, ketchup, mustard, chili, whatever, I put it on top of the hot dog. Do I not?
Yes, and that.
Do most people not put it on top?
Yes.
No. What do you normally do when you put something on a hamburger or a sandwich? You put it on top of the meat that you are eating.
Right, but it's stacking it.
I am stacking it on top of the hot dog.
Yeah, but it's still horizontal.
No, it's not. Yeah. How is it horizontal?
Bro, look, okay.
The sandwich is horizontal, or the hot... if I'm holding the hot dog, then everything goes vertically on that.
Vertically.
Yes.
Yeah,
vertical means to go up or down, not sideways. We're not putting it sideways on the hot dog.
Okay. Imagine not putting anything on the hot dog, okay? It's still horizontal.
I think you have your definitions of horizontal and vertical mixed up.
First, dude, you have a hot dog bun. You are not going to stand it up because the hot dog is going to fall out. This debate is going to ruin our friendship. You better chill, Lex.
Okay, so by this, let me also then ask. Does cereal, when you pour milk in, become soup then?
go ahead, like 5 star.
By the way, feel free to weigh in.
Yeah, no kidding.
On Facebook or Twitter, at R&D Sports Report.
Or even
both
a
of
review.
Them. Feel free to weigh in on our debate if a hot dog is a sandwich. But now I think it's different here for soup, and I'll tell you why. Because for soup it says a liquid dish typically made by boiling meat, fish, or vegetables, etc., in stock or water.
Yes, I was going to say no. It's not because it depends on what kind of things you use.
Yeah, but I mean...
No, but I mean...
No, but think about it. If you are... It says typically made by... So if I heat up the milk and pour in the cereal, then does it become soup because the liquid in that is boiling?
No. Why, if you ask? Why? Ask.
Why?
Okay, go ahead. Okay.
Because it's cereal? Is that going to be your answer? Because it's cereal?
Now we're getting for cereal. that was
Get it. I gotta stop this recording right now just for that pun.
I'm sorry. Look. First of all, it's milk. Okay? Soup does not go with milk. I'm sorry.
But it said liquid. Typically, that is stock or water that is boiling at the same time, right? In that entire definition, it says that. So if I boil milk, then whatever I put in the milk, it becomes soup, right?
No. Look, man, just quit.
How not?
Oh my gosh, bro.
All right, so as Riley's given up on these debates, I think that's a good place for us to end it with a hot dog being...
Now I'm hungry, thanks.
Being a sandwich, by the way. Cereal is not soup because of that definition of warm.
Hot.
But I never said it was.
Yes, you did.
No, I said if I take... No. I said if I take the milk and I put the cereal, because cereal is in the box, right? But then when I add the milk, then does that become soup? And I said if I take the milk and I boil it and then I put the cereal into that milk that's boiling, then does it become soup?
Yes.
Because cereal is cereal inside the box or out.
Yes.
Right? Dry or with milk, it is still cereal. But, this debate could rage on
no kidding.
For eternity because you just won't admit that a hot dog is a sandwich because it is a split roll.
I'm gonna smack you with a hot dog bun.
You go, bring it on. Go get one. I dare you.
I'm gonna smack you.
Because then I'm going to take a foot long from Subway and smack you with it and say, this is not a sandwich then, because it's the same thing as a hot dog. But with that, I think we should end there. Go weigh in our debate. Twitter, Facebook, R&D Sports Report. Go like us, go subscribe, go give us a review, hit the 5-star, and join us again when we do this on another episode of the R&D Sports Report.